Chapter 15, Episode 15, Blossoming Alliances. As the magical surge rippled through Hallowville, Sabrina and Noah knew they needed to expand their network quickly. They decided to reach out to neutral parties within the magical community, hoping to gain more support for their cause. Their first stop was the home of Madam Esmeralda, the respected leader of the local witches' coven. The old Victorian house seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy as they approached. Sabrina took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenge ahead. Noah knocked on the ornate door, which swung open on its own accord. They stepped into a dimly lit parlor, where Madam Esmeralda sat regally in a high-backed chair, her piercing eyes studying them intently. "We've been expecting you," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "The winds of change are blowing through Hallowville. Speak your piece." Sabrina stepped forward, her posture straight and confident. "Madam Esmeralda, we've come seeking the Coven's support. Hallowville is in grave danger, and we need all the help we can get to maintain the balance of magic." The Coven leader raised an eyebrow. "Bold words from one so young. What makes you think you're capable of leading such an effort?" Without hesitation, Sabrina raised her hands, summoning her magic. The room around them began to shift and change, transforming into a miniature version of Hallowville. Tiny buildings rose from the floor, and minuscule figures moved about their daily lives. With a wave of her hand, Sabrina demonstrated the delicate balance of seasonal magic that kept the town in harmony. Then she introduced chaos into the illusion. Spring magic began to overpower the other seasons, causing rapid growth and decay. The tiny townspeople panicked as their world spiraled out of control. Madam Esmeralda watched with interest, her eyes narrowing as she assessed Sabrina's display of power. "Impressive," she admitted, "but illusions alone won't save our town." Noah stepped forward, pulling out a folder filled with evidence. "It's not just illusions, madam. We have proof of a conspiracy to permanently shift Hallowville's magic towards eternal spring." He laid out documents, magical readings, and photographs explaining the evidence they had gathered. "This group is well organized and has already made significant progress. If we don't act soon, the consequences could be catastrophic." The Coven leader listened intently, her expression unreadable. After Noah finished his presentation, she turned to the other witches in the room. "What say you, sisters? Do these young ones speak the truth?" A murmur of discussion rippled through the gathered witches. One of them, a severe-looking woman with steel-gray hair, spoke up. "Their story is compelling, but how can we be sure of the urgency? Our coven has stood for centuries. We don't make hasty decisions." Sabrina opened her mouth to argue, but before she could speak, Quill chirped loudly from her shoulder. The hedgehog familiar's quills began to glow, and suddenly, vivid images filled the air around them. The witches gasped as they saw visions of Hallowville torn apart by conflicting magics. Buildings warped and twisted, caught between seasons. Citizens ran in terror as magical creatures broke free from their hidden realms. The very fabric of reality seemed to fray at the edges. As the visions faded, Madam Esmeralda stood, her face grave. "It seems your familiar has provided the proof we needed. The Coven will offer its support, but be warned, our resources are not unlimited, and our trust must be earned." Sabrina and Noah exchanged relieved glances. It wasn't full support, but it was a start. "Thank you, Madam Esmeralda," Sabrina said. "We won't let you down." With the Coven's limited backing secured, Sabrina and Noah turned their attention to recruiting a diverse team of magical beings to aid in their efforts. They ventured into the hidden corners of Hallowville, seeking out creatures that often went unnoticed by the town's human population. In the gnarled roots of an ancient oak tree, they found a colony of sprites led by a quick-witted sprite named Flicker. Noah appealed to their natural curiosity and love of mischief. "We need eyes and ears all over town," he explained. "Who better than the fastest, sneakiest sprites in Hallowville?" Flicker's wings buzzed with excitement. "Ooh, a secret mission! Count us in, big human!" Deep in the town's sprawling sewer system, they encountered a clan of goblins. These creatures, often misunderstood and feared, proved to be valuable allies. Sabrina spoke to their leader, a grizzled goblin named Grimtooth. "Your knowledge of Hallowville's underground is unparalleled," she said. We need your expertise to track the movement of magical energies and spot any hidden bases our opponents might be using. Grimtooth scratched his warty chin, considering the offer. What's in it for us, witch girl? A chance to be recognized as protectors of Hallowville, Sabrina replied. No more hiding in the shadows, you'll be heroes. The goblin's eyes gleamed at the prospect. Heroes, eh? All right, we're in. As the newly formed team settled into their hidden base, Sabrina called everyone together for a crucial planning session. The lighthouse's main room buzzed with anticipation, as witches, sprites, goblins, and other magical beings gathered around a large, circular table. All right, everyone, Sabrina began, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. We need to plan our counter-ritual to restore balance to Hallowville. This won't be easy, but I believe we have the skills and determination to pull it off. Noah stood beside her, a large chalkboard floating in the air behind them. As Sabrina spoke, he jotted down key points, the chalk moving seemingly of its own accord. The ritual will require several rare magical ingredients, Sabrina continued. We'll need to gather these from various locations around town, some of which may be challenging to access. She began listing the items. Moonflower petals from the abandoned greenhouse, starlight captured in a crystal vial, the tears of a jack-o'-lantern, yes, I know, but trust me on this one, and essence of the 4 seasons, collected at the exact point where they intersect in the hidden garden. The assembled team murmured among themselves, some excited by the challenge, others clearly daunted by the task ahead. We'll split into teams, Noah interjected, stepping forward. Each group will be responsible for gathering specific ingredients. We'll need to be quick and discreet. Remember, we're not the only ones out there with plans for Hallowville's magic. As Noah organized the teams, assigning tasks based on each group's unique abilities, Sabrina turned her attention to her advanced magic students. We have another crucial task, she told them. We need to create protective charms for every team member. These charms must be able to withstand both spring and Halloween magics. The students nodded eagerly, already discussing potential charm designs and magical infusions. Sabrina smiled, proud of their enthusiasm and growing skills. While the ingredient-gathering teams prepared for their missions and the students worked on the charms, Noah huddled with a group of goblins and sprites to discuss security. We need to protect the ritual site, he explained, spreading out a map of the area around the lighthouse. I want eyes on every approach, magical alarms on all access points, and a few nasty surprises for any unwelcome guests. Grimtooth, the goblin leader, grinned wickedly. Oh, we can do nasty surprises, Sheriff. Leave it to us. As the day wore on, the lighthouse hummed with activity. In one corner, Sabrina led a group through the complex magical gestures and incantations required for the ritual. Their movements were hesitant at first, but grew more confident with each repetition. Remember, Sabrina called out, precision is key. One misplaced gesture or mispronounced word could throw off the entire ritual. Meanwhile, Quills scampered from team to team, its quills glowing softly as it helped attune the gathered magical items to each member's energy signature. This process would ensure that the ingredients remained stable and responsive during the ritual. As the first teams returned with their gathered ingredients, however, unexpected difficulties arose. The moonflower petals, usually a soft silver, pulsed with an angry red energy. The captured starlight in its crystal vial swirled chaotically, threatening to shatter its container. The imbalanced magic, Sabrina muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's affecting the ingredients more than we anticipated. She quickly gathered her most experienced witches and began modifying the ritual on the spot. We need to add a stabilizing element, she explained, poring over ancient texts, something to act as a buffer between the conflicting energies. After several tense minutes of debate and magical experimentation, they hit upon a solution, a mixture of grave dirt and fresh spring water, blessed under both the full moon and midday sun. This combination, representing the balance they sought to restore, would help stabilize the volatile ingredients. As Sabrina explained the modifications to the team, she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Despite the setback, everyone had remained calm and focused, working together to find a solution. It gave her hope for the challenges that still lay ahead. With the new stabilizing element in place, The preparations for the ritual neared completion. The protective charms were distributed, each one a unique blend of magic tailored to its wearer. The ingredients, now properly stabilized, were arranged in a complex pattern on the ritual space. Just as they were about to begin the final rehearsal, however, Quill suddenly bristled, its quills standing on end and glowing with an intense light. Sabrina felt it too, a growing pressure in the air, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. "Something's coming," she said, her voice low and urgent. "Can you feel it?" Noah nodded, his hand instinctively moving to where his badge would normally be. "Magical resistance," he confirmed. "Strong, too. Looks like our opponents have figured out what we're up to." The team exchanged nervous glances, but stood their ground. They had come too far to back down now. Sabrina took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever was to come. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice ringing with determination. "This is what we've prepared for. Whatever happens next, remember, we're Hallowville's last line of defense. Let's show them what we're made of." As if in response to her words, the magical pressure intensified. Outside, the wind began to howl, carrying with it the scent of both spring flowers and autumn leaves. The battle for Hallowville's magical soul was about to begin in earnest. As the team continued their preparations for the upcoming ritual, a strange phenomenon began to unfold. Quill, Sabrina's faithful hedgehog familiar, started exhibiting behaviors that were far from ordinary. The first sign came when Sabrina noticed Quill's quills glowing with an intensity she had never seen before. "Noah, look at Quill," Sabrina called out, her voice a mix of concern and fascination. Noah turned, his eyes widening as he saw the hedgehog. Quill's quills were not just glowing, they were emitting sparks of magic that seemed to flicker between the vibrant greens of spring and the warm oranges of autumn. "What's happening to it?" Noah asked, moving closer to get a better look. Before Sabrina could answer, Quill did something that made them both gasp. The hedgehog slowly rose into the air, hovering a few inches above the ground, as if gravity had suddenly decided to take a break. "This is new," Sabrina muttered. Reaching out to touch Quill, the hedgehog chirped happily, seemingly unperturbed by its newfound ability to float. As they watched in amazement, Quill's powers continued to manifest in unexpected ways. With a concentrated look, as much as a hedgehog could manage, Quill created a small, shimmering portal in the air. Through it, they could see a different part of Hallowville, as if looking through a magical window. "Is that the town square?" Noah asked, peering through the portal. Sabrina nodded, her mind racing. "I think Quill just created a portal. But how?" As they continued to observe Quill's new abilities, Sabrina began to form a theory. "I think Quill is evolving," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "The heightened magical energies in town, the imbalance we've been dealing with, it must be causing Quill to adapt and grow in response." Noah considered this, his tactical mind already whirring. "If that's true, could we use Quill's new abilities to our advantage? Those portals could be incredibly useful for reconnaissance or quick movement around town." Sabrina agreed, and they began to experiment with Quill's new powers. They discovered that Quill could create portals to any place in Hallowville that it had visited before. The portals were small, but stable enough for Quill to pass through, or for them to send messages or small objects. This could change everything, Sabrina said, watching as Quill zipped back and forth between portals, chirping excitedly. "We need to incorporate this into our plans." They gathered the team, explaining Quill's transformation and demonstrating its new abilities. The group was initially skeptical, but as they saw Quill in action, their doubt turned to excitement. "Imagine being able to coordinate our efforts across town instantly," one of Sabrina's students said, her eyes shining with possibility. Noah nodded, already mapping out strategies in his head. "We could respond to magical disturbances more quickly, gather ingredients from across town without leaving our base, even set up surprise maneuvers against our opponents." As they worked to understand and harness Quill's new powers, Sabrina felt a change in her connection with her familiar. The bond between them, always strong, seemed to be deepening. She could sense Quill's emotions more clearly, and at times it felt like they were sharing thoughts. "I think our magical bond is strengthening," Sabrina told Noah during a quiet moment. "It's like Quill's evolution is affecting me too." Noah looked thoughtful. Could that be another key to balancing the town's magic? Your connection to Quill might allow you to channel and direct the seasonal energies more effectively. Sabrina considered this, watching as Quill created another portal, this one showing the hidden garden where they had found the first piece of the artifact. "You might be right," she said slowly. "Quill seems to be able to tap into both spring and Halloween magics equally. If I can learn to do the same through our bond." As the day wore on, the team worked tirelessly to integrate Quill's new abilities into their plans. They practiced coordinating through portal communications, tested the limits of Quill's portal range, and explored how Sabrina's strengthened bond with Quill could enhance their magical workings. By nightfall, they had a new strategy in place, one that relied heavily on Quill's evolved powers. The little hedgehog had become central to their plans, a linchpin in their efforts to restore balance to Hallowville. As they prepared to rest before the big day ahead, Sabrina knelt down next to Quill, gently stroking its glowing quills. "You're amazing, you know that?" she said softly. Quill chirped in response, nuzzling against her hand. Noah watched the interaction with a smile. "I think we might actually have a chance now," he said, "thanks to our little magical hedgehog." Sabrina nodded, feeling a mix of hope and determination. Quill's evolution had given them an unexpected advantage, one that might just tip the scales in their favor. As night fell over Hallowville, the town took on an otherworldly appearance. Visible streams of magical energy began flowing through the streets, casting an ethereal glow that pulsed with varying hues of autumn orange and spring green. The sight was both beautiful and unsettling, a clear indication of the growing magical instability. Sabrina, Noah, and their team gathered on the rooftop of the sheriff's office, watching in awe as the magical currents wove their way through the town below. Quill, perched on Sabrina's shoulder, chittered excitedly, its quills glowing in response to the surging magic. "It's like the town's veins," Noah murmured, his eyes following the intricate patterns of energy. Sabrina nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "These streams, they're not random. Look, they're converging at specific points around town." As they observed, the magical streams indeed seemed to be flowing towards particular locations, forming a complex network that spanned the entirety of Hallowville. Sabrina's eyes widened with sudden recognition. "The ley lines," she exclaimed. "These convergence points correspond to Hallowville's historical ley lines. The town's magical foundation is becoming visible." Noah pulled out a map of the town, spreading it out on a nearby table. "If we can map this out, it could give us a huge advantage in planning our counter-ritual." Sabrina turned to Quill, who was still intently watching the magical streams. "Quill, can you help us track these energy flows?" The hedgehog familiar chirped in affirmation, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intelligence. Quill began to hover, creating small portals that allowed it to zip from one vantage point to another around the town. As it moved, it left trails of magical light that mirrored the energy streams below. The team watched in amazement as Quill effectively created a three-dimensional map of Hallowville's magical network right before their eyes. Sabrina's students quickly began transcribing the information onto physical maps and magical scrolls. "Look there," one of the students pointed out. "Some points are glowing much brighter than others." Noah leaned in, studying the magical map intently. "Those must be the critical nodes where the magical streams are most concentrated, if we can secure those locations." "We could use them as anchors for our stabilizing ritual," Sabrina finished, her excitement growing. They'd act as focal points to channel and balance the town's magic. With this new information, Noah sprang into action, coordinating teams to secure these critical nodes. He divided their allies into groups, assigning each to a specific location based on their magical strengths and the nature of each node. "Remember," he instructed, "we're not just securing these spots. We need to prepare them for the counter-ritual. Set up protective wards, cleanse the areas of any conflicting energies, and be ready for anything." As the teams dispersed across Hallowville, Sabrina and Quill took on the task of harmonizing the magical currents at each site. They moved from node to node, Quill creating portals for quick travel between locations. At each site, they encountered unique challenges. Some nodes pulsed with chaotic energy, spring and Halloween magics clashing violently, Others seemed eerily calm, as if the magic there had been deliberately suppressed. "Something's not right," Sabrina muttered, as they arrived at a particularly turbulent node near the town square. The magical streams here swirled in angry eddies, resisting their efforts to stabilize them. Quill chirped in agreement, its quills standing on end as it sensed the resistant magic. Sabrina closed her eyes, reaching out with her magical senses. She could feel the conflicting currents, like discordant notes in a once harmonious melody. Taking a deep breath, Sabrina began to weave her magic, drawing on her strengthened bond with Quill. Together, they worked to untangle the chaotic energies, gently guiding the streams of spring and Halloween magic into a more balanced flow. It was delicate work, requiring intense concentration and a nuanced touch. More than once, Sabrina felt the magic nearly slip from her control, threatening to explode into unchecked chaos. But each time, Quill was there, its evolved powers helping to stabilize and redirect the energy. As they worked through the night, moving from node to node, a pattern began to emerge. The pockets of resistant magic they encountered weren't random. They showed signs of deliberate manipulation. "Our opponents have been busy," Noah observed grimly when Sabrina reported their findings. "They're trying to push the balance towards spring, disrupting the natural flow of magic in key locations." Despite the challenges, the team made steady progress. By the time the sky began to lighten with the first hints of dawn, they had secured and prepared most of the critical nodes around Hallowville. Exhausted but determined, Sabrina, Noah, and their core team regrouped at their base of operations. The magical map Quill had created now glowed with a more stable light, the chaotic swirls of energy having been partially tamed into more orderly flows. "We've made good progress," Sabrina said, her voice tinged with both satisfaction and concern. "But the magical energies are still intensifying. What we've done tonight is just the beginning." Noah nodded, his expression serious. "We've set the stage for our counter-ritual, but our opponents won't sit idle. We need to be prepared for their next move." As if in response to his words, a surge of magical energy pulsed through the town, causing the lights to flicker and the ground to tremor slightly. The team exchanged worried glances, the sense of foreboding palpable in the air. Quill, sensing the tension, created a small portal showing a view of the town square. The magical streams there were flowing faster now, their colors shifting more rapidly between spring and autumn hues. Sabrina stroked Quill's glowing quills, drawing comfort from her familiar's presence. "Whatever comes next," she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion, "we'll face it together, for Hallowville."